you see any white babe to give you full time, the other way, sha. Okay, fine, no problem. Valuation. So yeah, valuation. So this topic is actually very, very important if you are going through like your IB interviews. Like, why I feel investment banking interviews are a bit easy is because there are a set of questions they would ask you in IB. You just have to know it. Like, there's a standard set of questions. Sorry. There's a standard set of questions they can ask you in investment banking. Valuations are some of those questions they'll ask you. So you look at, there's basics of accounting, they would ask you that one. You can't escape it. All those relationships between financial statements, you can't escape it. If I ask you, oh, depreciation went up by, I think I asked some people that I interviewed last week. Was it last week? Yeah. If I ask you now, depreciation goes up by $100, what may try to affect the three financial statements? Who can give it a shot? So, depreciation increased by $100. Walk me through how that transaction would affect the three financial statements. Who wants to try? It's not hard, really. Someone should try now.
Okay, so if the depreciation increases by $100, it increases the expenses. Talking about the statement of and that reduces the profit by $100.
No. Yeah, so yes, but no, in a way. So it's reduce profit, but then you're omitting something. Before you get to profit, you always have to make assumptions for a tax rate. It's not going to be reduced by 100, it's going to be reduced by the after-tax effect of that. So, continue from there.
Okay, so in the statement of net acquisition, because the depreciation has increased by $100, it's going to actually reduce the net value of the asset by the same amount. And also, the depreciation will also affect the cash flow from operating activities, statement of cash flow.
So how would it affect it?
Because you have to add back non-cash items, so to profit, then you have to use it to start, depending on the area. So it's going to increase the amount you're adding back to the profit before you subtract the increase in your working capital. So basically, increases the cash from operating activities by same amount.
So yeah, you tried, like he has an idea. So that's a typical question they'll ask you. Nobody's going to, yeah, they'll ask you what do they do in investment banking, but when you get to the technicals, like that's very, very basic. Walk me through how depreciation going by. Walk me through how. Yeah, so that's a very typical question they'll ask you. Walk me through how depreciation going up by $100 would affect the financial statements. If they want to make it a bit challenging, or if they want to take it a notch higher, they would ask you, so walk me through how depreciation increasing by $100 affects, and also walk me through how a write-down of, say, $100 would affect. So how would a write-down of $100 affect the three financial statements? Those are like things. So that's why I said basics of financial is very important. Financial accounting. You have to know all those relationships. You can't escape it. You can't escape it. And then valuation is another one you can't escape. So I've had a couple of friends that have gone through the interview process, and I think, was it last year or 2 years ago? After the corporate presentation, they had their face-to-face interview, and then there's this very, very notorious guy. You guys, some of you might still meet him. He's a very, 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 very strong guy. Because he's a Nigerian, you can't bobo him. So just forget boboing. It won't work. So he was interviewing this guy that was applying to investment banking. And then there was a Pepsi bottle in front of him. And his question was, how would you value Pepsi? So if I were to ask you, what is the brand of your laptop? Acer. How would you value Acer? Value Acer for me. You don't know? Try. Try. You have to try. How would you value Acer? Just try. Very basic. Try. Yeah, so if you exactly, thank you. If you know their financials, then Exactly. So, assume you know their financials. Walk me through how you value the company. Okay, what would you use their profit to do? Okay, what would you use their profit to do? You don't know, but you tried, yeah. So, those are typical scenarios. Fine. Sometimes they would ask you, okay, tell me how you value a company. Other times, it will be something very random. They look at you, you're looking nice, you wear glasses to the interview. Tell me, what brand of glass is that? Walk me through how you value, or if you're wearing a Ray-Bans, for example, or something, walk me through how you value a Ray-Bans, for example. How would you do that? Those are typical questions you could get. Yeah, so, but if you know like the basics of valuation, it's really nothing difficult. They are just a fixed set of questions to ask. When we talk of valuations, pretty much what we're talking about is, who wants to try? What does valuation mean? When you say valuation, what are you trying to do? Valuation, what are you trying to do?
Okay, so I think it sits on the assumption that markets are not efficient, so companies may not be doing as they are.
People like this, avoid them. And people like this, they'll shoot themselves on the foot. Valuations, markets are not efficient. Your interviewer will be like, nice. You know this thing very well. Okay, walk me through market, my efficient market hypothesis. There are 3. So tell me about market hypothesis, market efficiency hypothesis. What I would advise you, like to be very honest, try and keep things very, very simple. Keep things extremely simple and go with that approach that you know just enough, but don't show you know too much. Don't go there and do oversabi. It will kill you. Because you can't know more than those guys that actually do this stuff. So all you might know is just some textbook stuff. And they'll ask you a very, very simple thing and you just mess up. So keep it very, very basic. It's good to show that you know too. If you meet the person that likes you to show that you know, by all means, show your skills. People should show yourselves. But my advice would be, keep it very, very simple. So valuation, what is valuation? So when you talk about valuation, as the name implies, you are trying to estimate how much something costs, the worth of something, Abi. I'm trying to tell you, value Acer. Use an Acer laptop. How much does Acer worth? How much does Ray-Bans as a company worth? How much does Dolce and Gabbana worth? How much does Talentmine? They're always sending us this email. What's their net worth? Yeah, so how much are they worth? So that's pretty much valuation at a very basic level. You're trying to figure out how much. You're trying to estimate the worth of something, and then since you're not God, you can't know off the top of your head what something worth, Abi. There are techniques you use to estimate the worth of something. So they call them like methodologies. How do you value a company? There are different methodologies you use. So valuation, first of all. Estimation. Forgive my handwriting now. Estimation of the worth of anything, really, of anything. Anything could be an asset. Could be an asset or anything. It could be property. An asset is a property. So an asset encompasses everything. So when you talk about valuation, you're pretty much trying to look at estimation of the worth of anything. That's pretty much what valuation is. And there are ways you can use, or there are methods you can use to estimate the worth of anything. So at a very, very high level, when you are looking at valuation methodologies, you look at relative. So you'd have valuation methodologies or valuation methods. High level, you'd have 2. You'd have intrinsic valuation, or let's say that's how we relative. You have relative valuation methods. And you have intrinsic method. Who can distinguish between these two for me? Relative and intrinsic. Who wants to try? Okay. So who wants to try? Difference between these two, relative, intrinsic, at a very high level. Keep things simple.
You first said at a very high level.
Yeah, high level means very simple. Surface.
Okay. So relative valuation method. Okay. I feel it's a valuation method whereby you compare a company with its peers in a specific industry or based on geography or different metrics. While intrinsic method is when you look at the firm and you look at the assets, or basically you value the firm based on specific assumptions and.
Okay, yeah, you tried. Who else wants to give it a shot?
Okay.
Your name?
My name is Victor.
Victor. What's cool? Yes, when I call you, introduce yourself. I didn't just talk for 30 minutes, so you know me and I won't know you. So, yeah.
My name is Victor. I'm in front of the University of Science.
How many ULAG students are here? If you're in ULAG, please raise up your hand. Are you serious? So, what other schools are here? See you. Babcock. I won't call you. Who are you? UI. Oh, that's nice. Mix. Did I miss out your school? Yeah. Unilag, okay, Unilag. Is there any other school here I didn't call? Uniport. Ocean State University. What's your name? Oyindamola. Have we spoken before? Did I interview you? Okay, I think I did, yeah. That's good. That's the very first one. Huh? Is there any Uniben here? Yeah. Where? Who is in Uniben here? Oh, you're usually quiet for Uniben students. Like you guys, the zeal, let me put it very politely, the zeal you guys show. Sorry, I'm just joking. So yeah, so he gave it a shot and it made sense. So he said relative valuation method, you're trying to estimate the value of something by using another thing. Abi? And then he said intrinsic, so the word intrinsic has to do with what does something worth, like, yeah, core. Like at the very fundamental level, if we were to break things down to the very, very fundamental level, what is the worth of something? That is intrinsic. So who can give me an example of an intrinsic valuation method? DCF. So yeah, you have the DCF. What does DCF mean? Ah, you guys are really smart. Ah, so nice. So which other intrinsic method do we have? Oh yeah. Assets what? Yeah, I think yeah, it could fall there. Yeah, intrinsic assets, yeah. So assets, so asset-based models, let me see. Yeah. So you have assets valuation. Assets, is it asset or yeah? Asset-based valuation models. You guys can see my writing, Abby. Which other one? Which other intrinsic method? Which other one? I think there's one more popular one. So I think there's sum of the parts. We can put sum of the parts here. Sum of the parts. So if I were to tell you to value a company like General Electric, do you think it would be easy to value General Electric? Does everyone here know General Electric? You're sure you know them? G, everyone knows G. If you don't know, tell me. Yeah, so G is this very big, so G is a conglomerate. So conglomerate, I don't know how to spell it, there you go. Conglomerate. Sorry. Yeah, so G is a conglomerate. Conglomerate meaning they're into different stuffs. So there's G capital. I think that's the, what I call it an investment, the investment arm, G capital. There's G capital, there's G healthcare. Exactly, G healthcare. There's G power. There's G water. There are a couple of other G stuffs. So this is the company, G, General Electric. But they have like different subsidiaries, like autonomous subsidiaries under them. There's G Capital, they're into investments. There's healthcare, they're into healthcare, something totally unrelated. They're into power production. So I think G, they produce all this equipment, all these power generation companies use. And they are also into production of, they produce the engines of aircrafts. So I don't know what division that one would be, but that's G something. Let's say G Airlines, but not G Airlines. Yeah. So you can see it, they are very, very unrelated. So if I were to tell you, value this company for me, how would you do it? Off the top of my head, if they were to ask me this, I would pretty much know that I can't use relative valuation. Because if you want to use relative valuation, as it implies, you are, based on its definition, you are trying to estimate the worth of anything, an asset, a company, a security, based off on the value of another asset. So relative, just remember that one, relative valuation methodology. I'm trying to estimate the value of Talentmine by looking for the value of EduBridge, even though they are not competitors at all. That kind of thing. So can you think off the top of your head of another company that exhibits the same characteristics as General Electric? Can you think of any other one? That's, which one? No, Berkshire is different. Berkshire is an investment firm. So they invest, they own like controlling interest in different businesses. They are not the same. So can you think off the top of your head, how would value G using another company, Dangote? No. So Dangote, there's Dangote Holdings. That's just like a holding company. But they are individual companies. There's Dangote Cement. It's a public company. It's listed. Everyone is listed in London or something. There's Dangote Sugar. It's listed. You can buy shares in Dangote Sugar. You want to value Dangote Sugar, you look at, which other sugar do we have? We have Boa Sugar. Yeah, you look at Boa, you look at Golden Penny Sugar. So that kind of, so you can value that one using relative. But General Electric is a very complex company. How would you value it? Exactly. So this is what you use. This is where the sum of the parts valuation comes in. It's intrinsic, meaning you are trying to get the fundamental value of this business. This business is humongous, like it's big. There are lots of different things there. You can't value an investment firm the same way you value an healthcare company. It's different. It can't work. So you can't just come up with a general value for G as a whole. What you do is you break General Electric into their component parts. They have GE capital, value GE capital on its own. You can value GE capital using relative, using DCF or whatever, relative or intrinsic. You get the value of that. Value GE healthcare, you can use relative, you compare it to another healthcare company, come up with the value of that. You value GE power, look at another power company, get the value GE power. Then you now do what? You sum the individual valuations. You now get the, so how much is GE worth? GE is what? The sum of the value of the GE capital, GE healthcare, GE power. So that's where sum of the part comes into play. They could ask you this question just to test your knowledge. How would you value General Electric? Yeah. Someone would start giving a figure. So yeah, that's one way you can value General Electric. So yeah, that's intrinsic. So in intrinsic method, you have the DCF, the discounted cash flow. You have asset-based valuation model. So under asset-based, a valuation technique you could include here would be liquidation value method, something like that. Yeah? Yeah, it should fall under asset-based. Yeah, liquidation. So what that means is you get the total value of assets, you get the total value of liabilities. You subtract total value of liabilities from total value of assets. It gives you the liquidation value. So the liquidation value is the amount that shareholders may get if they decide to liquidate this business right here and then. So ideal scenarios for liquidation valuation techniques would be companies that are on the brink of bankruptcy, like they're about to go under. So instead of just letting the business fail, if they bring in an investment banker, what an investment banker will tell you is it will make more sense to just liquidate this business. I'm very, very sure, or they would be very, very sure that this business would have hard assets. So it makes more sense for you to sell off the assets, pay off your debt, and then you still have something left, as opposed to just leaving the business to fail on its own. If the business fails on its own, it's going to be terrible. Like different stakeholders in the business will come and tell you that, oh, see, this is pay me my money, give me this one, give me that one. So it messes things up. So there's this investment firm, I don't know if you guys know of them, Abraj. So I think they're experiencing issues now, and what they've done now is to file for provisional liquidation. So they want to liquidate the assets in like a very organized manner. So liquidation valuation should fall under this. I'm not so sure, you can check up, but I think it will fall under this. And then some of the parts I've told you about it. We'll still go into details of DCF, because you can't escape that one. So relative valuation methods. Who wants to give me examples of relative valuation methods? Huh? Yeah, so with relative valuation methods, I think there are two high-level ones. Yeah, you said multiples. Multiples or what? There's another name for it. Yeah, Comparables. So you have company comparables. Company comparables. And you have what? Precedent transaction. Yeah. So wants to explain to me what this means and what this means. Wants to give it a shot. Company comparables. No, someone else now. Shakira, company comparables. Company comparables. Okay, yeah, I'm learning for them. Yeah, so precedent transaction. Yeah, so precedent transaction. Who wants to explain precedent transaction?
For instance, I just want to say that IPMs and stuff. So looking at we want to do an IPM here. Look at the IPM data and use it to compare.
Okay. Can you use the IPO in Ghana to compare the one that's happened in or have happened in Nigeria in the past 3 years? Or what IPOs in the telecom space have happened in Africa in the past 3 years? Then try and get the values they got, get the averages, then get what you could value. So yeah, that's pretty much the idea. So company comparables, like they say, company comparables, you are comparing companies together. So you want to get the value of, let me see, how could I put it? You want to get the value of company X. Company X, for example, is a private company. Okay? Company Y is public. Abi? You want to get the value of company X. But because it's a private company, we might not have enough information to come up with a value. So because it's private, we might not be able to do DCF. Because with DCF, we need to forecast cash flows. If we don't have a solid or sound understanding of how the business works, how they generate revenues, not just revenues, because they can put lots of, how they generate their profits. They can put lots of stuff under profits. If we don't have a sound understanding of that, we can't use a DCF. You can try, sure, but your value might not be very realistic. So in this scenario, what you'd want to use would be a comparable company's valuation technique, whereby you get the value of this private company using the value of the public company. There are different ways you do that. So, any question? Okay. Yeah, so exactly, that's why we have different methods. So if there are no comparable public companies, you now have to start exploring other ways to value the business. You could now look at, say, precedent transactions. So has there been any acquisition of this type of company in the past? Can we use that to estimate a value? Okay, there has been no company that has been acquired like this in the past. You now have to start getting creative. You now come to DCF. But for this type of company, I would want to assume this would be a startup company. For a startup company, you can't even use a DCF.
In case of like
a hotel business, okay.
some of them are not
So you don't value an hotel. You'd also use comparable companies. But in this sense, you'd have to look at what you are comparing. Like, how would you get their multiples? So with a hotel business, you have hotels that are listed now. There's Cap Hotel, there's a Keja Hotel. So yeah, most of the times you find similar businesses. And if you don't find a similar business, you can use a DCF for a hotel because it has like predictable cash flows. So yeah, most of the times you'd have to value it. It might be difficult, but you have to value it. And then if there's a company that there's no comparable companies, there's no precedent transactions, you can't use DCF, you can't use some of the parts. I don't know. You'd have to try as much as possible to be very creative. You try and get a company that is as similar to it as possible. It might not be so similar, but at least it's relatively similar. Take for example Facebook. When Facebook first started, it would have been kind of difficult valuing Facebook because it's a startup, they don't have cash flows. They're not even generating revenues. Most of them are incurring losses. So you can't use a DCF because there's no cash flows. What you could use would be a relative valuation. So when Facebook was around, there was a MySpace network. MySpace network was somewhat similar to it. So using multiples, equity multiples, enterprise value multiples, you could have come up with a valuation. So does everybody understand company comparables? If you don't understand, let me know. So company comparables method, it's a method whereby you value a company by comparing that company to other companies that are public most of the time. That's why Shakira said it's trading comps. They call it trading comps, trading comparables. So you compare this company with a company that has publicly available information. How would you compare them? You may say we'll compare a bit. So under company comparables, I think there's what they use. There's this method they call multiples. So under company comparables, you have equity multiples, and you have what? Enterprise value multiples. Have any of you guys heard of this before? Equity multiples, enterprise value multiples. Who can give me an example of an equity multiple? Huh? Who said? Price to earnings, thank you. So equity multiples, so EM, you have what? Price to earnings, PE ratio. Abi? Which other one? Which other equity multiple? Price to book, thank you. Price to book value. Equity multiples. Now enterprise value multiples, EV multiples. Can you give me examples? Examples of enterprise value multiples. Anybody? EV multiples. Thank you. EV to EBITDA. EV to EBITDA. Who knows what EBITDA is? Yeah, I know. Obviously, I know it's earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. What is EBITDA? Yeah, it's earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. Which other one? Which other EV multiple, enterprise value multiple? You have to know all these things, though. To EBIT, thank you. So EV to EBIT. Which other one? Price earnings growth ratio. I know what that is. I don't even know. Price to earnings. This is price to earnings. If you want to make it fancy, you could use that, but you can make it yourself. Keep it very simple. So enterprise value multiples, EV to EBITDA. Which other one? So if a company is not generating profits, EBIT is like a measure of like cash flows, Abi. Exactly. So if a company doesn't have cash flows, how would you value this? If like it's not making earnings, there are no profits. What multiple? What creative multiple can you use here? Because EBIT is like a proxy for profitability. EBIT is a proxy for profitability before depreciation, blah, blah, blah. So which other one can you use? EV. So if a company doesn't have, the EBITDA is negative, Abi, the EBIT is negative, what other multiple could you use to value it? Because you can't come up with a negative value. I'm trying to tell you how much is Dangote worth. You're telling me it's worth minus $1 billion. Does that make sense? No. That would happen if any of this is negative. And most of the times, EBIT is usually negative for companies that made a loss in a year for any reasons. So which other multiple can we use with enterprise value? Yeah, thanks. EV2. You can never have negative sales, can you? No. So EV2, what? Sales or revenue, whatever. Is there any other one? EV, EBITDA, EV. Yeah, I think this covers the major ones. Is there any other one? EV. Yeah, EBITDA. Yeah, exactly. So these are examples of multiples. Now let me explain what I mean by equity multiples. So a multiple is a relationship between two variables. Abi? Look at equity multiples, for example. So anything that has to do with equity, you are pretty much trying to figure out the value of something that is available to equity holders, equity owners, those that are putting capital in the business, that own the business. Those are equity multiples. So an example is price to earnings. So the price of the business, price per share most of the times, over the earnings per share gives you a multiple. So take for example, say Dangote is trading at a multiple of price to earnings, say they are trading at 20 times. It's possible, very possible. So say Dangote is trading at 20 times earnings. What this tells you is that There are different ways to interpret this thing. If you're into investment management, investing, and a stock has a price to earnings of 20, you might say it's expensive. But you can't just look at this on its own. That's why it's relative. You have to compare it to other stocks. So what 20 times is saying typically is this company is trading at 20 times its earnings. So it is these multiples we normally use to get the value of a business. So what we do is we apply these multiples to a line item on the income statement, and then we come up with a value. Do you guys understand that? So when the process of getting the value of a company using equity multiples or company comparables, you try as much as possible to get a multiple. Then that's the very first thing, get a multiple. And we've established that there are equity multiples, there are enterprise value multiples. Now, why didn't anybody ask, why can't we do EV to earnings per share? Why can't you do enterprise value to earnings per share? That's the question they can ask you. Why not EV to earnings or EV to book value?
So the first one is restricted to the stock, like the shares. The other, the enterprise value is combination of the shares and the total market cap and the net debt.
Cool. So when we're talking of, I should have even started with that. Does anyone know what equity value is? Equity value and enterprise value. This is where I should have started, sorry. Who wants to explain to me what equity value is and what enterprise value is? Some of these things is really not hard. Like, once you just get the basics, you'll be fine. And I would try as much as possible to go back over and over again. Once you just get it, it's very, 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 very easy. So equity value, enterprise value. Who wants to take a stab?
So, my name is Tony.
Okay.
I'm the
What department?
economist.
What level?
300.
Okay.
So, equity value is a component of the enterprise value.
Okay.
Enterprise value is the equity value plus net state.
So what is equity value? You just told me it's a component of enterprise value. You're not explaining it.
Equity value is the total market cap based on the current share price of the company.
What is market cap?
The market cap is the multiplication of the current share price times the outstanding share.
Nice. So market cap is just telling you how much this company is worth based on the number of shares they have in the public and what each of those shares are trading at. So that's equity value. And it's a component of enterprise value. So what is enterprise value? Everybody understands that. Are you able to go over it? Question?
Yes, question. In market capitalization, is it
Yeah.
outstanding shares that shares are being sold or the total shares are being sold?
So outstanding shares that are freely floating. So they have not been sold yet. So the shares are floating. Whatever that means, the shares are floating. They're outside there. So these are the shares that if you want to buy from someone else, it comes out like this person is selling to you. So that's like the total amount of shares that are in circulation that the company has offered. Yeah, that's the number of shares. Come back on what? Equity value. So equity value is the equity value of a company. So equity value is more or less what a company is worth, considering two variables. What is that company trading at currently? If you go on NSA, what is Dangote Cement trading at? You get a value. How much shares outstanding do they have? You get a value. You multiply what they are trading at by the number of shares they have. That gives you the equity value. It's just you're a trader in Oshodi, or you're a trader in Yaba. Okay, so you're a trader in Yaba, and then in your shop you have 1,000. You sell shoes. You have 1,000 shoes, different kinds, and on average, the price of each of those shoes is what? Let's say 5 naira. No, it can't be 5 naira, never. On average, 1,000 naira. If I were to ask you, what is the equity value? What is the value of everything you have in that shop? What would you do? You get the per unit price, Abi, 1,000 naira, and then you multiply it by what? The number of shares you have there. Number of shoes you have there, 1,000, Abi, you get 1 million, Abi, or 10 million or whatever. So that is the whole concept behind equity value. So this is the value available to equity shareholders. Equity value, people that put in capital. That's why we are multiplying number of shares outstanding to price per share. Because number of shares outstanding are people that own the shares, Abi. They are the ones that have contributed their capital. So what is the worth of this, their total holdings? What is their equity value? Multiply the total number of shares in different people's hands to the price per share. You get equity value. Any questions? Yeah, exactly.
Okay, my question is, what if the company is not profitable?
What if the company is not public? That's a good one. So yeah, exactly. It all boils down to this. So this company is not public, Abby. Is this company public? So this is a private company, but there's a similar company that is public. I want to get the value of this. So do you know we can get the equity value of this by getting the value of this? That's where multiples come in. So to tackle this scenario now, what you do now is to get the enterprise value. If you get the enterprise value of this public company, you can get the equity value. Because enterprise value is what? Equity value plus. How do you get enterprise value? How do you get enterprise value?
Equity value.
Okay. There's no paper. So enterprise value EV is equal to what? Equity value plus what? Plus debt plus preferred stock plus minority interest minus cash. So this is the comprehensive formula to get your enterprise value. You add your equity value to debt, to preferred stock, to minority interest, and then you subtract cash. Now, what is driving this formula? Now, enterprise value is trying to look at the holistic value of a company. Equity value is just saying you have what? You have 1,000 shoes in that shop, Abby, and you have what? You sell it for 1,000 naira. So the value of that your business is what? 1 million naira. But guess what? You are paying rent, Abby. Guess what? You might have taken on debt, Abby. Would equity value capture those variables? No. But if I would want to come and take over that business from you, won't I pay rent? Won't I take over the debt you are owing? That's just the old logic. So equity value will tell you what this business is worth. Like at the very basic level, just go to the stock exchange. Debt, number of shares outstanding times price per share. That will give you, Dangote is worth what? 1 trillion naira, the equity value. But is that what Dangote is really worth? If you were to buy Dangote today, is that the only figure you'd pay? Dangote has debt on its balance sheet. The commercial paper they issued now, that's 50 billion naira. It is not it's not in that value you've gotten in equity value. It is not there. It's not reflected there. So who will take care of the 50 billion? Will Dangote pay for it? Or you that you are taking it over, you pay for it? Once you are taking over a business, you are taking over everything. You pay for debt too. So you are going to take over debt. There will also be, so preferred stock, you're adding preferred stock because preferred stock, so a preferred stock is a type of stock. It's a stock also. So it has characteristics of stocks and it has characteristics of debt. It has characteristics of debt in the sense that it has like a fixed rate of interest that it will be paid. So in that way, it's similar to debt. What comes to us, you have to pay these preferred guys their interest. So it's more debt like. That's why we add it. Because if you take over that business, you are taking over these obligations, this preferred obligation. So you add it. And then also minority interest. So minority interest is added because, I don't know anybody that studies accounting here or you've come across it. So when a business owns more than 51% of another business, it becomes a majority shareholder. And I think IFRS or something, I don't know if it's IFRS. Or it's like global accounting standards, what have you. I never liked accounting. But the rule is that once you own more than 51% of a company, you report that company as if you own 100% of it. So what is reflected on the books is the 51% they own. What are the other minority interests? Since the law has said that, oh, we have to reflect it as if we own 100%. The other parts that you don't own, you also add it to get the value. That's why you're adding minority interest. So you're adding this minority interest, and then you're taking away cash. Why are we taking away cash? Because in a sense, you are paying to buy a business, Abby. If you buy this business, you are going to pay for it most likely with cash and other things. So when you buy the business, you are paying for cash. So in a way, Dangote is worth 1 billion naira. Of that 1 billion naira, 200 million naira is in cash. If you buy Dangote, you're not going to get 200 as cash back. So that cash is coming back to you. So there's no need paying for cash that is already in the business. That's why you subtract the cash there. These are like very testable areas. They might ask you, why do you deduct cash from your enterprise value. So try and, if you check online, you see very fancy terms. Cash is an operating item. You need to blah blah blah. If you don't really understand it like the way it is, try and understand it. You'll just be ranting that to the person, and the person will be dribbling you. That is just the logic, and I think that's what Femi explained it when he taught the class. So cash, you pay for it, you're going to get it back once you buy the business. So there's no need paying for what is already there. Like I'm giving you 200 million to collect the 200 million back, you get. So no, we want to get how much we really need to pay for this business. So we subtract cash. Does everybody get that? So that's enterprise value. So enterprise value gives you the value of the business available to all stakeholders in the business. Stakeholders meaning equity holders and debt holders. Equity value gives you the value of the business available to just equity holders. If equity holders say they want to sell their shares today, what are they getting? That's the equity value. But if I want to buy this business, given the logic we just gave now, that store owner, she pays rent, she pays other things, she might be paying community tax, maybe if you're in the UK, she might be paying all these other stuff that are part of the business. You get it in enterprise value, and that's what you really pay for a business. You don't just pay for the equity value, no. You pay, if you want to buy a business, you have to look at the enterprise value. So now we know equity value, we know enterprise value. Abi, any clarification you want from me? Feel free to ask any questions, or you paid for this class, so ask away. Yeah?
Yes, is it possible to combine more than one valuation method in one?
Combine, in what sense?
Can you maybe use an intrinsic method?
Yeah, definitely. So there's this stuff called, I think, football field. They call it a football field chart or so. So it gives you a range of valuation methods. So if you're valuing a business, you value them with different methodologies. So you can value them, there's usually always a DCF. You value the company using a DCF, you value the company using a comparables, whatever, and then you value it using precedents. So for each of these values, you get a range of values for the business. So the whole essence of using different valuation methods, where you can use different, is to more or less give you an idea of how much this business is worth. So if we did a DCF, how much is it worth? If we did a comparable companies, how much is it worth? If we did a precedent transaction, how much is it worth? So usually you get a range of figures. Then you now find the median and then apply it. So yes, obviously if you're trying to value a business, yeah? Okay. 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 So if you want to buy a business, you need to get the enterprise value to know what you're buying. The enterprise value is what the business is worth, Abi. So since we've removed cash from it, cash is not going to be reflected in what the business is worth. So if you're going to pay for that business, you are not paying for this cash. This cash is not part. We are not accounting for it. Because the logic is, when we buy this business, that cash is coming back to us. So it's not really a cost per se. That's the logic behind it.
So that's multiple.
Okay.
Determine the multiples to use for a particular firm.
So how do you determine the multiples to use for a particular firm? So let me try and interpret that question. How do you determine? So there are a standard set of multiples you use. So first off, you have to know what company you're trying to value, to know the methodology you'd use. If the company doesn't have predictable cash flows, you know DCF is out of it. For relative, there are sets of values you get. If you want to get equity value, so if you want to get the value of that business using the equity value, you have price to earnings. But we are saying now that this one doesn't give you a holistic view of the business. So most of the times, if you want to value a business, what you deal with is enterprise value. And like the most common multiple used is the EV to EBITDA. Like almost everywhere, EV, EBITDA. And who knows why people or investment professionals try as much as possible to use EBITDA? Why not EV to sales? Why EV to EBITDA? Yeah, why EV to EBITDA? Why do people use this multiple? Enterprise value to EBITDA.
My name is Akinola. So I feel there are some companies that spend heavily on depreciation and so if you're going to be using like a value that goes beyond that particular accounting measure, it won't really take into consideration the value of the firm. So you look into the value that is before the depreciation.
So yeah, I just said it. So very high level. The reason we use EBITDA as a line item is because different companies have different accounting policies. That's just it. That's just the big grand answer. They'll ask you, Why they can ask you this in an interview. So why EV EBITDA? Why not EV sales? Or why not price to earnings? Use EBITDA cost. EBITDA gives you a before any mago picture of the company. So you have what? You have sales, Abi. You have what? Cost of sales, Abi. You get what? Gross profits. Gross profits, you remove what? Remove operating expenses, Abi. You get what? You get EBIT. This is your earnings before interest and tax, or operating income, Abi. Now, this earnings before interest and tax, some things have been taken away from it. In this operating expense, for example, you've included depreciation, Abi. You've included maybe amortization, and some other fancy stuff there. Now, guess what? You know there are different depreciation methods. There's straight line, Abi, accounting guys. There's straight line method. There's reducing balance method. There's sum of the year digits. There's units of production. Shakira understand this one. There's units of production. This is like the major one. This one is usually double reducing balance method. Double reducing balance method. So now let's try and see how all this would affect. So with a straight line method, you'd have the cost of the asset, Abi. Let's say the cost of the assets is 5,000 naira, Abi. Let's say at the end of 5 years, we'll sell the assets for what? Let me try and make this easy for myself. Let's say at the end of 5 years, the asset is worth 0 naira. And let's say the useful life is how many years? 5 years, Abi. What is the depreciation per year? 1,000 naira, Abi. Now, with a double reducing balance method of this is depreciation. So depreciation on that straight line is what? 1,000 naira, Abi. Now let's calculate depreciation under reducing balance. Now reducing balance is usually 2 over the number of useful life, which is 5 years, times the book value of the asset, 5,000. So 5 in 5,000, that's what? That's 2,000. So depreciation under double reducing balance is what? 2,000. Abi? Now units of production, we can't really use units of production here, but let's give this, we can't really use unit of production. So let's just restrict it to this. So the whole idea of units of production is you try and estimate how an asset depreciates based on the usage of the asset. So if an asset can produce 50,000 units of what? 50,000 units of candy in 5 years, Abi? It can produce 50,000 units of candy in 5 years. And then each year, you have a certain level of units you produce. So let's say for the first year, you produce what? 10,000, Abi? The first year, sorry, you guys are not saying. So first year, you produce 10,000 units, Abi? Second year, you produce 20,000 units. Third year, you produce what? So 2030, how many years left? So you produce 5,000 units here. This is how many? 35, you have 15 left, 2 years left. The next year, you produce 10,000. And then the fifth year, you produce 5,000. These are the units of production you're producing. And then the capacity of that asset is what? 50,000 units, Abi? To get the depreciation using units of production method, you take each unit, you take the total number of units produced in each year. First one now will be 10,000, divided by the total capacity of the asset. That's what? 50,000. 50,000 times the book value of the asset. Say 5,000. 5,000, you get depreciation for that year. Next year, it will be 20,000 over 50,000 times 5,000. On and on like that. So you get different one. But since we don't have those information here, we won't use it. We'll stick to straight line and double reducing. So straight line we got what? 1,000 naira. A bit depreciation. For reducing balance, we got 2,000 naira. Now, how will this affect? Now let's come here. So in operating expense, let's do hypothetical stuff. With oh, there's even one here. Oh, you still have one total. So yeah, so the precision we got with straight line was what? Straight line was what? 1,000 naira, Abi? Reducing balance, double reducing balance was what? 2,000 naira. Cool. Now let's say this business had sales of how much? Sales of 10,000 naira. Abi? 10,000 naira. And let's say cost of sales was what? Cost of sales was what? No. Let's say cost of sales was 3,000. You get what? 7,000. Abi? Now you have selling general administrative expenses. Or, so this figure now is what? Gross profit. Now operating expenses. The only operating expense we'll put here now is depreciation. So on that straight line, depreciation is what? 1,000, Abi? So your earnings before what? Interest. Earnings before interest or operating income is what? 6,000. Now same thing. If this was reducing balance, this is still the same 7,000, Abi? Depreciation is what? 2,000, Abi? Your earnings before interest and tax or operating income is what? 7 minus 2, 5,000. So you see how different treatment of depreciation affects this value. So it won't be fair for you to now compare a company that has used a straight line method with a company that has used a reducing balance method. Let's continue now. So let's say we want to use EBIT, and then we've come up with, how did I do this now? Enterprise value. So let's say this business, so these are two private businesses, and then there's a public company we have, and with the value of the value of that business is what? The value of that business is what? Let's say 7 times EBIT. That's the value of that public company. After we found enterprise value, we divided it by their EBIT. The value is what? 7 times. Now let's apply that. So this 7 times means that business, our reference business, is what? Sorry, is what 7 times its EBIT. So that is the multiple. So ideally, you won't just restrict it to 1. So you can get like the multiple for 5 businesses. So the first one is 7 times, the second one is 6 times, the next one is what? 8 times, the fourth one is what? 9 times, this one is 5 times. So sum it, 7 plus 6, 13, 13 plus 8, 21, 21 plus 9, 30, this is 35. 35 times divided by 5 to get the median, that gives you 7 times. So it is this median you now apply to this line item. So that's what I was saying. Now when you are doing valuations, you are trying to get the multiple, so you can apply that multiple to a line item on the company you are trying to value. So these two private businesses are what we are trying to value. But we can't value them because we don't have so much information. We need to value them because it's a relative valuation. You are valuing them based on information from a public company or a set of public companies. Now these are the multiples we've gotten for the set of public companies. The average is what? 7 times. Now where do you apply this 7 times to? You apply it to a line item. It could be EBIT, like we said. It could be EBITDA. It could be sales. So if you want to get the value of, because this one is an EBIT multiple, it makes logical sense, apples to apples, to compare this average multiple to EBIT in any private business to get the value. So what would be the value of X now? Value of X is 7 times what? EBIT. So that's what? So this business is what? 42,000 naira. Abi? This business is what? 35,000 naira. Is this fair? These two businesses are exactly the same. The only thing different here, as you guys could see, is the treatment of depreciation. So now in your analysis now, you'll be like, this company is cheaper or this company is more expensive. But is that really the case? Are you really comparing apples to apples here? No, because the way they treat, the accounting policies are different. So to eliminate all these ones, because we can't really be going through financial statements, okay, which depreciation method did they use? Is this straight line? Because there's a way you can convert between straight line back to reducing balance, back to what have you, but that's so hectic. Let's save ourselves all this stress. Any accounting manipulation they've done here, let's remove it. Let's add back their depreciation figures. That's why earnings before interest, tax, depreciation. So this is the earnings before you paid interest, because interest now will be affected by the capital structure of the business. This business might have more debts. This business might have 1,000 in debt, and this business would have 0 in debt. Because this one has 1,000 in debt. If because of this debt is 10%, there'll be $100 charge here as interest. So you'd also deduct that one. So it will be different. This one now, there'll be no interest. So to avoid all those differences, like all those peculiar differences between companies, you use EBITDA. Add back to all those other stuff they've deducted to get like a face value pari passu comparison. So the EBITDA of this one now will be, add back depreciation, 7,000 Abi. Add back depreciation, what do you get? Are they not the same? So if you apply this multiple to it, don't you get 42, 42? So that makes them very comparable. That's why analysts prefer using EBITDA. And that's why enterprise value to EBITDA is like the most widely used valuation multiple in finance. For those. Now, how would a write-off work? That's another very basic accounting question they might ask you. I'm not even taking you guys accounting, so they might ask you now, so depreciation goes up by $100, how would they affect the statements? Also note that the company wrote down $100 worth of plant PPE. So if the company writes down $100 worth of PPE, how would that affect? So imagine this company wrote down $100 of PPE. This company did not write down any $100, but both of them, their depreciation increases by $100. The value you get from this company will be different. How? So if you write down $100, it means you feel this plant, this PPE is worth less than $100. So that is an expense. So it will also show up under operating expenses. So the EBIT figure you will get here now will be 5,900. Abi? EBIT will be 5,900. Now this is earnings before what? Interest, tax, depreciation. Let's assume they don't have any debts, they don't have blah, but there will be tax. Assume a tax rate of what? Assume a tax rate of 40%. Now the after tax interest on this will be what? 60% of 5,900. Somebody should do that. Yes, so the bottom line, profit after tax, is what? 5,000 what?
3,540.
Huh?
3,540.
Okay, 3,540, Abi. 3,540. Fine. Now, we've seen how it affected this one. So a write down of, I'm trying to make it very simple. Let's leave this one. Let's use, I just want to just buttress that point about what these things affect. So depreciation goes up by $100, Abi? And then there's a write down of $100. How would this affect? If depreciation goes up by $100, it means your operating expense goes up by $100. There's also a write down of $100. It means your profit after tax goes down by, it's going to go down by 200 because of tax. So all you know, you have increase in operating expenses of 200. That's my point. Now you won't just say because operating expenses went down by 200, your profit after tax go down by 200. No, because there's tax. So the after tax effect of this is what? 60% of this, that's 120. So what you would say in that kind of interview is that your profit after tax, your net income would reduce by 120. So net income will go down by what? 120. Now, what I usually advise is that when you are given all those scenarios where you have to find the relationships in financial statements, always start with the income statement, then move to the cash flow statement, then wrap it up with the balance sheet. Now, see how I'll do it. Now, depreciation went up by $100. There was a write down of $100. All in all, operating expenses will go up by 200, and then net income would assume, they won't usually give you a tax rate just to see if you are smart. So you tell them that, okay, so depreciation increased by 100. There was an equipment write down of 100, meaning operating expenses goes up by 200. I would assume a tax rate of 40%. So the after tax effect of depreciation going up by 100 and the write down by 100 is 120. So what this means now is that net income reduced by 120. That is it there. Now we've discussed income statement. Abi? Now let's move to cash flow statement. Cash flow statement, you'd have cash flow from operations. That's where these things will affect. Now, depreciation is a what? A non-cash item, Abi? So you add back plus 100, Abi? Is a write down, is it a cash transaction? No, it's a notional transaction. So you add back what? 100. Abi? So all in all, cash flow from operation increases by what? 200. All in all, the cash flow statement, the change in cash flow statement is plus what? 200, because none of that affects any other place. It doesn't affect investing, doesn't affect financing. Now you've seen how it affects the cash flow statement. Now let's wrap it up with the balance sheet. The balance sheet makes sure that what you've done makes sense, because basic accounting equation, assets equals to what? Equity plus liability. If equity goes up by 100, liabilities must go up by what? Like they must balance. If asset goes up by 100, either equity goes up by 100 and liability is 0, liability goes up by 100, equity is 0, or equity goes up by 50, so it must have, if this goes by 100, that way. So now let's see how we wrap it up in the balance sheet. Now in the balance sheet, depreciation is what? What would depreciation do to assets? So assets goes down by what? 100. So this is assets. So yeah, we deduct it from net book value. So asset goes down by what? 100. Abi? So this part of the accounting equation is down by 100. What else again, Seth? No. So asset doesn't go down by just 100. It goes down by, so depreciation reduces it. The write down also reduces it. So depreciation goes down by what? The asset goes down by what? 200. Because what a write down means is that, see, we've looked at the fair value, the market value of this. If we want to sell this asset today, we'll sell it at 100 less. So the balance sheet has to be very reflective of the value of the asset. So that's why most companies, especially under IFRS, I don't know if US GAAP allows it. IFRS, there's always revaluation and then how it affects blah, blah, blah. So companies revalue the assets every year. So because depreciation reduces the value, writes down reduces the value, asset goes down by what? 200, Abi. Now we said if anything happens here, it must happen here. Fine. Now let's see how we do that. Now, so components of the other side, equity and liability. Now, we said net income went down by what? 120, Abi. Now let's see how that is. So net income flows into equity, how? Through retained earnings. So if net income goes down by 120, equity goes down by what? 120, Abi. Now let's see. Equity goes down by 120. Where else would this affect? Where else?
Tax paid or tax liability.
Tax paid or tax liability. Where? No. You don't really need to account for that. It just needs to flow into equity. So equity is down by what? 120. And assets is down by 200. So there's a difference of 80. Now that's where 80 is coming from. Let's see, write down. How do you treat a write down? Write down, financing. So these are all the things. That's why you need to. This is how you have to do it like this. Exactly. Someone said cash. Exactly. From your cash flow goes up by what? 200. Abi? Cash flow goes up by 200. Abi? Yes, cash is what? An asset. Fine, thank you. Whoever noted that. So, no, but that will still be so. That will still be. Let's take it. So, your assets, write down and depreciation goes down by 200. But cash goes up by what? 200. So it evens out. So there's no change in assets. So that means there has to be no change here too. Let's look at it. So equity, net income goes down by what? 120. That means liability needs to go up by 120 or something has to happen. No. Yeah, question. So we said in the cash flow statement, so we did the income statement, Abi. We said, we did all we did, the tax and what have you. And then we said net income reduced by what? 120, Abi. If net income, here, so now there's, thank you for that question. Net income reduces by 120, Abi. Fine, thank you. Thank you very much. Net income reduces by 120. Where does net income flow to? You know I said income statements, cash flow statements, then balance sheets. Net income flows to where? The cash flow from operations. That's what starts it. So you start with what? 120. And then we said depreciation is a what? Non-cash item. You add it back. So it's already, net income was minus 120, but now you're adding non-cash, 100, depreciation, Abi. Yeah. And then write down is what? Non-cash, plus 100, Abi. So that's what? Plus 200 minus 120 is what? 80. So cash goes up by what? Cash goes up by what? 80. Fine. Thank you very much. Now you come here to your assets. Cash is what? Up by what? Cash is up by what? 80, Abi. But then the asset itself, you remove depreciation. That's what? 100. So the asset is down by 100. Non-cash write down is down by what? 100. So asset is down by what? 200. But cash is also an asset. It's up by what? 80. So the net effect is that cash is what? Asset is down by what? 120. God bless you. So asset is down by what? 120. So this is the asset side. Now we said we agreed that whatever happens in the asset side must also happen in the equity or liability side. Now the only thing that affects here is what flows into equity? Retained earnings. What flows into retained earnings? Net income. Net income was down by what? 120, meaning equity is down by what? 120. So if asset is what? Down by 120, equity is what? Down by what? 120. Does it balance? Does the accounting equation balance? So that is a very standard question they would ask you, relationship between financial statements. Write down. So they could ask you now that if a company purchases inventory, so they could ask you if a company purchases inventory for cash, how would they affect the three financial statements? They could also ask if a company purchases inventory on credit, how would they affect the three financial statements? You always have to know. Now look at now, see the mistake I made. I wouldn't have figured it out if I had started anyhow. Because I ended up with the balance sheet and I knew that whatever happens here has to happen here. Both of them must balance. So in that way, you'll be able to retrace your steps. Because all this, you're not going to write. All of this is in your head. So it gives you the information. Depreciation goes down by 100. There's a write down by 100. Just know you're starting with the income statement. What those two will do is that it will increase operating expenses. Operating expenses goes up, meaning net income will reduce by the after-tax effect of the increase in operating expenses. You get that one. You know that from your net income, you're going to cash flow statement. So whatever you get in net income starts with the cash flow statement. Also know that depreciation is non-cash. Write down is non-cash. Add them back. You get the net effect. Those are the only changes. You already have what changes in the cash flow statements. Then you now come and wrap it up in the balance sheets. You know that if asset goes up by a certain amount, it has to be the same effect in your equities and liabilities, and then you tie it up. That's how you answer those kind of questions. And trust me, you're going to get those kind of questions. Sorry. Any question? So we just deviated just to see how you do all this, yeah.
So I didn't really get the ending part.
The ending part. Okay. So the what we did was where did you figure out, or do you understand how we got assets going down by 120? Let me just start. So let me start. Do you understand the cash flow part? So the cash flow, we said net income went down by 120, Abi. You know when you're starting your cash flow from operations, you start with net income. So net income is down by what? 120. But depreciation, you know what you do in your cash flow from operations? You add back non-cash items. Everybody's following. Depreciation is a non-cash item, so you add it back. Plus what? 100. The write down is a non-cash item. You add it back. So that's what. So what you're adding back is what? Plus 200. But what you reduced by was what? 120. So the net effect is what? 80. So that's plus 80, Abi. Because it's minus 120 plus 200. That's plus 80. So that's the only part of the cash flow statement that is going to be affected by all of this. So all in all, cash flow is up by what? 80. Now, cash is what? Asset, liability, equity. What is cash? What is cash? Cash is an asset. So on the asset side, we said cash is up here by what? 80. So on the asset side, cash is also up by what? 80. You know there are different things that make up assets. So cash is a part of asset. Then there's PPE. Abi? PPE. In this scenario, so our asset here is cash and PPE. So cash is up by what? 80. What of PPE? PPE, you know depreciation reduces PPE. Write down reduces PPE. So we are saying depreciation of what? 100. Write down of what? 100. That's what? 200. So PPE will reduce by what? 200. So PPE goes down by what? 200. So one asset is going up by 80. One asset is going down by 200. What is the net effect on total assets? Minus 120. So total assets is going down by what? Minus 120. Now this is the accounting equation. Assets equals equity plus. I'm not supposed to be taking this class. Assets equals equity plus what? Liabilities. So if you are saying asset has gone down by 120, it means something must happen to these two components that would also make them go down by 120. Now we remember that what in the income statement, our net income was what? It went down by how much? 120. This 120, how does it flow? Because that's another thing. Another question they'll ask you is, they'll tell you, so tell me, I think I asked a couple of people, no one really like answered that question. Walk me through the three major financial statements. When they ask that kind of question, you give a brief description of each of those financial statements. So the three primary financial statements are, we know a statement of all those ones, three. Income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow statements. The income statement shows the performance of a business over a period of time. It starts with revenue. It accounts for cost of sales. You get your EBIT. You deduct your So you start with sales, you get your cost of sales, you get your gross profit, you get your operating expenses, you get your EBIT, you deduct your tax and interest, and then it shows you the profit after a period of time, usually 1 year. So the income statement shows the performance of a business over a period of time, usually 1 year. How do you estimate the performance of a business? Profitability. That is what the income statement shows you. They add sales. So when you tell them, just give them high level. Income statement shows the performance of a business over a period of time, usually 1 year. It starts with revenue. You account for the cost of that revenue. You get your gross profit. You account for operating expenses, that's selling, general, administrative, to get your earnings before interest and tax, assuming the company has debt that it is paying interest for. If it doesn't have debt, no interest, so you account for tax. You multiply that earnings before interest and tax by tax to give you the net income. This is the performance of the business at the end of a period of time, usually 1 year. After you've explained that, you now move to the balance sheet. The balance sheet is also a very important financial statement. What does the balance sheet do? The balance sheet gives a snapshot of the business at any particular point in time. So what is the worth of this business at a particular point in time? How do you get that value? It's through their assets and liabilities. So net worth, what is Dangote's net worth? Is assets minus his liabilities. What is a company's net worth? Assets minus liabilities. So the balance sheet, so you tell them the balance sheet provides a snapshot of the financial position of a business at a specified point in time. The balance sheet contains the current, you have the assets section, and then you have the equities and liabilities section. The assets section is further broken down into current assets. You want to use new language, non-current assets, and yeah, is it long-lived assets and no, what those terms? Keep it simple. The assets section consists of current assets and non-current assets. The equity and liability section consists of equity. So under equity, there are components of equity. So there's ordinary share capital, there's additional paid-in capital, there's share premium, there's retained earnings. There are a lot of fancy things there. They could use that. So another one now is, I think there's another one they used to ask. So how does, it has to do with retained earnings, and it's a bit very tricky. I'll give you guys sets of questions to prepare on. So that's that one. So you just tell them there's the equity section which shows what the equity owners have contributed. Keep it very simple. And then there's this liability section. The liability section is also divided into current liability and non-current liabilities. And then the cash flow statement shows the movement of cash in a business over a period of time, short and simple. The cash flow statement is divided into 3 sections. You have the operating section, you have the investing section, you have the financing section. All in all, the cash flow statement shows you how cash has moved. And what you should get as your net cash balance on the cash flow from the cash flow statement should be the same as your cash balance on your balance sheet. So now you've given them an overview of the 3 primary statements. Now another thing they might ask you now is, so how do these statements, they might not just ask you like that, because it's easy for you to talk as to how it links. They now give you all these scenarios I just did now to see if you understand how these 3 statements, how they relate. See this, just see this basic scenario we gave now. Did we touch the 3 statements or not? We touched it. If you don't understand the relationship between these 3 statements, you'll just be lost. You tell them, oh, depreciation went up by 100, I'll be, nice. Write down went up by 100, nice. Profit went down by 200. The profit, you've already fell down because you didn't account for tax. Most businesses are taxed. So it goes down by 200 Abi, then you carry them to maybe a balance sheet. You tell them that, oh, it goes down by 200, so your retained earnings in balance sheet, so it goes up or it goes down by 200, whichever. It's at 200 it. Then you now take them to the car. Like, you are not structured. And what interviewers want to see is someone that is structured. This person started with the income statement. He moved to the cash flow statement. Makes sense. And then he tied it up with the balance sheet. Makes sense. And at the end of the day, he told me that assets went down by 120. And he now told me that there's a basic accounting equation. Assets equals equity plus liability. So if there's a decrease in assets by 120, the equity or liability section must also go down by 120 one way or another. It now reminded me that the net income we calculated went down by 120, meaning retained earnings goes down by 120, meaning equity goes down by 120. He now concluded by telling me assets went down by 120, equity, nobody will ask you for that question. They'll like you. We'll move on to the next one. Like, you can't give them, there's no room for them to ask another question. But if you're the one that just did 200, the left is 200, when I ask you, was this business not taxed? So when it's already when it's now questioning you, then you just know that you have to now start explaining. You're not, oh yes. So in your mind now, it's telling you, because you're under the pressure, you're under the spur of the moment. It has now brought it to your attention that you're supposed to tax. Your problem now is, where will I now reflect this tax? Damn, tax is income statement. Let me go back. When you're now coming back to the income statement, you now start thinking, so how would I now fix this tax inside now? You now be like, we tax it. We tax it, then 200, we tax it. So to save all those disorientation and what have you, just get your answer structured. Just follow this format. This is what I use for all my, like all the interviews I got that were relationship, and that was the end. They don't ask me twice. And once I explain it to them, that's the end. We move on to the next one. And that's how you want your interview to be. Start with the income statements. Always remember there's always a tax effect to everything. They won't give you a tax rate. They want you to assume a tax rate. Or you can tell her, you can ask her to even show you are confident. Should I assume a tax rate? I should just keep it very simple and do without a tax rate. Or if you want to prove yourself like John, tell her, I'm assuming a tax rate of 40%, then work out rates. So that's how the person that is rounding up accounting should like go into all of this in detail. So it will teach you that mine is valuation, we've already deviated. Where did we stop? Yeah, where did we stop? Yeah, so I was explaining why EBITDA is preferred. So if I ask someone now, why do analysts prefer enterprise value to EBITDA multiple as opposed to any other multiple? Who would answer that question? Try.
That's it gives you a face value of the company.
You're keeping it simple. You mentioned face value. What is face value of earnings? They will ask you down. So just tell them that enterprise value to EBITDA is preferred because EBITDA is a proxy for profit that strips out different accounting policies that different organization uses. So EBITDA is a comparable proxy of profit across different organizations. Just try and mention it strips out the different accounting manipulation or policies of different companies. They'll just love you. They'll be like, yes, this guy is savvy. So that's why it strips out accounting policies of different companies, accounting policies and manipulations of different companies, because I don't know how you want to manipulate this thing, but there are two different ways to manipulate. They can manipulate sales too. So towards the end of the year, they start sending customers that didn't order for stuffs, they send them stuffs. They record it as credit sales. Because of that year, their sales has gone up. If sales goes up, every other year goes up. That's manipulation. At the end of the accounting year, the customer will tell you, like next year when the customer is doing his record keeping, you'll be like, I didn't order for this thing, he sends it back. But you've reported this year that sales is so and so. There are different ways to manipulate all these things. So you try as you may to get a reflective and comparable figure. There are different ways you can manipulate. People are mad. People just sit down and look how to manipulate them. That's what they pay them for. So yeah, so that EBITDA, you explain to them that this is why you do this. So now where did we stop? So we're talking about EBITDA. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Question. No. So look at it. There's sales. There's cost of sales. You deduct cost of sales from sales, you get gross profit. You deduct operating expenses or SG&As, but just use the fancy term for them. Operating expenses. Because you know, cost of sales, this one is like direct cost of this sales. So you bought inventory for 1,000 naira. What was your cost of this inventory? The purchase price of the inventory, Abi? The price for transporting that inventory to the business, Abi? Any discounts, so you reflect it in your inventory cost. That's the direct cost. Then what is your gross profit? You deduct that cost from the sales, you get gross profit. But like we said, there are other costs that are also associated with it. Warehouse, for example, you pay warehouse people. There's warehouse salary or wages, that's what they call it. It will be under operating expenses. There are machines and equipment you're using in that business now. You depreciate it, that's an operating expenses. So there's another thing they call period and product cost. I didn't want to go into that one, but I think they've asked somebody before. So there are period costs, can I remember? And product costs. So all these period costs are all this. So period costs are costs that I think you use it for a year or something. Right. Yes, they are fixed and like they cover a longer period of time or something. But like they are like costs incurred over a period of time, usually 1 year. Those are period costs. So all these rents, the one you pay every year. And the thing with period costs is that you can't really trace it to a unit of output. So if you have like 42 people in this class now. How would I determine the amount of electricity one person is getting here? So I think period costs are apportioned. Are we? So so they are apportioned kind of. Then product costs are allocated. So product costs are like very specific identifiable costs. All this inventory now, if you bought 1,000 units of electronics or 1,000 iPhones, you can guess the cost of one. So you can directly charge it, you can allocate it to it. So that's cost of sales. So that's it. Now, let's go back to where we were. Yeah? Question?
So you said the depreciation is part of the operating.
Yes. Yeah.
So if I have gross profits and I deduct the operating expenses from this,
you get earnings before interest and tax.
So how do I
that's operating income.
How do I not get it?
So EBITDA. So what is EBITDA? Yeah, that's a very, very smart question. So earnings before interest and tax. This is what you get. And we said EBITDA is what? Earnings before interest, tax, depreciation. So to get these earnings before interest, tax, add back depreciation and amortization. Yeah. So yeah, they can ask you how do you get to EBITDA from EBIT? Add back depreciation and amortization to EBIT. You usually get this information in the financial statements. If you go to the cash flow, if you go to the balance sheet, you'll see there'll be an amount for depreciation. There'll be an amount for amortization. What's the difference between amortization and depreciation? Who can tell me? They can ask you very basic. You know, you someone else. Difference between depreciation and amortization.
Amortization relates to intangible assets.
Yeah, exactly. That's just it. Then depreciation, tangible assets. That's just it. So yeah, you just add it back to EBIT, and then you get your EBITDA. Short and simple. Now let's go back to what we are supposed to be doing. Now we said, what were we talking on? We're talking on enterprise value multiples. Did I? I thought we were talking about.
So I asked, how do we know the multiples you use?
Okay, yeah. Then I just went off. No, wow. Okay, yeah. So equity multiples, yeah. Then we broke down this one now. So you guys know what equity value is now, Abby? You know what enterprise value is. So enterprise value is available to
both equity and
debt holders. Exactly. Equity value is available to equity holders. Thank you very much. If you want to buy a business, which value would you look at? Which value would you be interested in? Enterprise value. Cool. Nice. We're making progress. When is equity value relevant? So that's another good question, sir. So equity value so you need equity value to even get your enterprise value. So that's why it's relevant. Because enterprise value is equity value is a component exactly. So you need, or if you just want off the top random, you just want a quick valuation. What's the Dangote worth? Go to the NSE. Dangote trading at 200 and something. How many shares are standing? That gives you an idea of so the equity value is this. So you know your remaining problem is look for debt, market value, preferably market value of debt. If they have, most companies in Nigeria don't have preference stocks. Minority interest, then you deduct cash. You can get that. Yeah, preference shares, that's it. Preference stock shares.
So if you consider debt, you consider bank overdraft, bank borrowing.
Debt, any long-term debt, anything debt. No, bank overdraft is a short-term thing here, I think. I don't think you include bank overdraft. I don't think you would. I don't know, but I doubt you would. Short-term kind of. Short-term. So most times, long-term debt. You can check that up. You should ignore everything you come and teach here. So check whether it's long-term debt or short-term debt. But most, I think it should be long-term debt. And the market value. It's usually very hard to get the market value. So you have to check that one out too. Okay, Olumide Ashadi. What school? What department? Okay.
So you find out general acquisition and you guys take quite some people to carry out such a thing. So what in determining the enterprise value, entity value, is there a fixed range?
Did you say entity or equity value? Enterprise value.
Entity value.
I never said entity value. Don't misquote me. I didn't say entity. They were asking now who taught you entity value. You say lovely. That fair guy.
Entity value.
Okay.
By now, I understand the equity value is something that is so variable. It changes every moment.
Yeah.
So, what variations do you guys do?
So whenever they are doing equity valuations or any valuation, they would always state as at when that valuation is done. So if Dangote Cement is trading at 227 now, and they're carrying out that valuation analysis, they'll, like at the very top of that Excel sheet, you see at valuation date, there'll be like, there's a column, valuation date, February 2016. And like, cause these deals take a period of time, say 3 to 6 months. Even though the share price of Dangote would vary, it won't, unless something fundamental happens, the change in the share price won't be so drastic. So maybe it was 227, now it's trading at 230 or 250. It's still, if it is very drastic and it's now 150, then you now have to even start the valuation all over again, because the dynamics of that business has changed. But most of the time, like the equity value at that point in time and when they'll conclude it, it's always very, the difference is always marginal. So that's the thing. Any other question before we move on?
Do you adjust for the bid price while when value?
Well, no, you can't be doing that. So today, Dangote is 227, tomorrow is 229, I'll adjust. You won't live there now. That's the thing. So you just do your stuff. Just with everything in finance, the assumption. So your assumption or this analysis is based on Dangote's share price as at February 2017 or whenever. And then anybody that wants to look at it, they'll go and check NSC. What was Dangote trading at on February 2016 that you said? And they get the figure there. So that's just it. Any other question? Any other question? So we're fine. So now we know equity value, Abi, and we know enterprise value. So the reason I mentioned equity value and enterprise value is because of, yes, it's because of comparable companies. So you guys be following these things. So how do we value companies? So on a very high level, we have relative valuation methodologies and we have intrinsic valuation methodologies. Under the relative, we have the comparable companies or the trading comps, and we have precedent transactions. Under the intrinsic, we have the discounted cash flow, we have the asset based, and then we have sum of the parts. Most of the time you'll be asked on DCF, we'll come to that. So we've seen the high level. If I ask anybody here now, how do you value a company? High level, there are two things. You could either go the relative valuation route, or you go what? The intrinsic part. Now under the relative valuation, we have the company's comparables, and then we have the precedent transaction. Now what we are currently talking on is what? Company comparables. Now we said the company comparables, what they usually use here are what? Multiples. Abi? That is why we now came to equity multiples and enterprise value multiples. Now you can't know equity multiples and enterprise value multiples without knowing what equity is and what enterprise value is. Abi? That's why we now came to explain what equity value is. Abi? And what enterprise value is. Now, back to equity multiples. We gave examples of equity multiples. So you have price to earnings multiples, you have price to book value multiples. You can check for other ones. But these are the two of the most common ones I know. So now, we said company comparables, we deal with multiples. How do we use these multiples to value a business? So you get the multiple, price to earnings. For equity multiples, for example, price to earnings or price to book value. You apply this multiple to a line item. You remember that's what we did there? Abi? So these are multiples, Abi? Who can remember what multiple this was? Enterprise value to what? EBIT. To earnings before interest and tax. So we found the multiples, Abi. We got the median, which is 7 times, Abi. So this is saying this public company or these public companies on average are worth 7 times their EBIT. So now that we have the multiple, we can now apply it to a line item on the companies we are trying to value. Now the line item we are going to apply this one is to what? EBIT, because this multiple is what? An EBIT multiple. You can't apply an EBITDA multiple to an EBIT line item. EBITDA is different from EBIT. If the multiple you got, that's why there are different multiples. There's enterprise value to EBIT, there's enterprise value to if the multiple is 2 times, what are you multiplying that 2 times what? Times the sales of the company. If you are applying the enterprise value to EBIT, and the enterprise value to EBIT multiple is what? 8 times. And you're applying it, what are you applying it to here? What are you going to look for here? EBIT, Abi, then apply it. So, this example I gave you is just how you come up with the value of a business using multiples. You get the multiple, and then you apply it to a line item. So, by line item, we mean items here on the income statement. The line items, it could be sales, it could be EBIT, it could be EBITDA. It would also be net income, that's price to earnings. Market price per share divided by, how do you get earnings per share? Net income divided by number of shares outstanding. So that's it. So it's net income to price to earnings. Question?
Yeah. So in applying it to line item,
Okay.
you pick just the last, for instance, the last EBITDA figure for the last reporting period, or you take an average.
Yeah, that's a good question. So EBIT, so the EBIT, let me see. So the multiple will be an average multiple, and then you apply it to, the most recent EBITDA figure. So if Dangote Cements, their most recent financial statement will be what, 2017. You want to buy the business now. You want to buy it in 2017. So the business generated 2 billion this year, and it generated 4 billion last year. If you were to buy the business now, which amount are you getting? It's not the most recent one. So you apply that multiple to the most recent line item on the most recent financial statement.
Sorry, so they have year in 2017.
Okay.
They have Q1, Q2.
So usually do a year end. Don't complicate things. It's usually year end. Yeah, most of the time year ends to keep things very simple. Because if you don't start accounting for Q1 this year, you have to start doing calendarization and that. It's not. I don't think though. Nobody has ever gotten that kind of question. Like, I don't think.
So getting
It's very. It's not difficult, but it's just complicated.
So arriving at a multiple, sometimes you make use of average one from other than media.
Average is median. Yeah. So, hope you guys follow. So, but to give you now, okay, so let me give you guys a little exercise to do. So, assume, so you're trying to find the value of, you can write it down, just little. Okay, you want to ask a question? Ask a question. How do you know the one to pick? That's another very good question. So, the thing is, how do you know the one to pick? In what sense? Either an equity multiple or, so yeah, you decide what you want to pick, but usually you get a value for all of them.
Also, if you want value, some people say use PE or
Yeah, price to earnings, price to book. So it depends on you and how you are trying to look at that business. So someone that is a fundamentalist or that is trying to estimate like what the company is worth on like an intrinsic level would want to use the book value per share. So what is the book value per share? It's the total assets minus total liabilities, Abi, divided by number of shares outstanding. That gives you what that company is worth per share. So it's not so that book value, that's how you know whether a security, that's a good one. That's how you know whether a security is undervalued or overvalued. How do you know if Dangote is overvalued? How do you know if Dangote is undervalued? You have to get the book value per share. What is Dangote worth? By just looking at their balance sheets, by just looking at their assets. Forget that the market feel it's a good company, Dangote has government support, so the market is telling you that it's worth 200 and something naira per share. If we were to look at the assets of this company, forget the noise outside, let's look at this company on its own. Get the net book value of the company. How do you get net book value? Total assets, total liabilities, divide by the number of shares they have. That'll give you the book value per share. That is what you get as a shareholder if they were to shut down now, sell their assets, use the assets to settle their liabilities, and share the remaining money to shareholders on a per share basis. This is what Dangote is worth. So when you get that book value per share, you now compare it to what they are trading at. So if their book value per share is 150 naira per share, and it's trading at 220 something, that means Dangote is overvalued because it's trading at more than what they are worth. If Dangote were to shut down today, what you get is 150. Why are you paying 2? Why is it trading at 2 something? That's telling you that it's overvalued, and it's overvalued for different reasons. People believe the company is a good company, so all these things affect share price. So future expectations about performance of the business is another reason. Maybe they feel that man he has been expanding, is in Egypt, is in Cairo, now his refinery is there, blah blah blah. Profit is going to come in the future. Like how do you reverse it? It's like let's put money inside it, and you know, once there's demand for something, price goes up exactly. So that's just it. So that's why Dangote now could be trading at 2 something, whereas it is what on book value. So people that want to be very conservative, people that want to get a conservative value of a business, they will use price to book value as opposed to price to earnings. Now, price to earnings is very, very popular, but most analysts tend not to rely on it because of what I said. Now, what is price to earnings? What the company is trading at multiplied by its earnings per share. How do you get earnings per share? The net income, which is profit after tax, divided by the number of shares outstanding. Now, that profit after tax figure is mago. They've done so many things there. Like there are so many things they could have done there. They could have manipulated it. They could have shipped out the one I said now. They try and boost their sales. Like, cause towards the ending of the year, companies want to make their financial statements look good because they know there's going to be an annual general meeting early next year. And last year you came, you said your sales 1 billion. Now it's looking like you're going to have sales of 900 million, 800. Shareholders will ask, how far, God, what happened now? What are you doing now? We are paying you this point. Nobody wants to be in that situation. So company management, what they try and do is they try and like look for ways to inflate the figure, and it all flows down to your profit after tax. So that profit after tax, most analysts feel there are lots of manipulations in it. Fine, it's a very quick way to, so an advantage of, which one? Advantage of comparable companies, especially those price to earnings, price to book, is very quick. So you can get their price per share on Nigerian Stock Exchange. On their financial statement, you get the earnings per share. So you get the multiple, apply it to, so if price to earnings for Dangote is 20 times, and you have the earnings for another company that is private, so just multiply that 20 times to the earnings, you get a figure straight up. So it's very simple to use. But analysts don't rely on just that. So that's the thing. And okay, so I said I wanted to give question.